I'm not required to identify myself. No, I'm
being detained.
Now, this is a classic case of knowing your rights and standing your ground. In today's video, we witness a textbook example of a First Amendment audit where a man legally records from a public sidewalk, only to have officers show up, question him, and try to demand ID without lawful justification. But here's the kicker. This guy knows the law, and he isn't backing down. What follows is a masterclass in how to handle police encounters when you haven't committed a crime. From calmly asserting his rights to requesting a supervisor when things start going sideways, he turns the tables on the officers, leading to an absolute walk of shame. The cops got schooled, and they knew it. Stick around to see how this all plays out, because this is how you handle business when your rights are on the line.
We got the Santa Maria Police Department on the scene. Hi, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Great, thank you.
So Juvenile Hall wanted to know why you're videotaping their building.
Just gathering content for a little story I'm working on.
Okay. Is it for like school or something?
Just I have a blog and such.
Okay. Do you have ID on you?
I prefer not to identify.
Okay, I'd like to see it. You're required by law to give me your ID.
Actually, unless I've been suspected of committing a crime, I'm not required to.
You're filming a government building.
From a public sidewalk.
Right.
Which is perfectly legal.
Right. I have the right to detain you, okay? And you're required to identify yourself.
Well,
you're not being charged with anything.
I understand that. I understand that, officer, but I do understand California law. Unless you have reasonable suspicion that I've actually committed a crime,
okay.
Filming a government building from a public sidewalk, which is protected by the First Amendment, is not a crime.
No, but I have the right to detain you to figure out what's going on, okay?
Okay.
You're addressed in all BDUs. You got a video camera, 2 video cameras, okay?
Okay.
Juvenile Hall is okay. If no crime is committed, then no big deal, okay? But I do have the right to identify. You are required to give me your ID.
No, I'm not. Unless you have reasonable suspicion that I've actually committed a crime, I'm not required to identify myself. No, I'm not.
Being detained.
Okay, officer. What am I being detained for?
For suspicion of why you're dressed and acting all weird.
Well, suspicion is not a crime.
Right. It's not probable cause. Reason for suspicion to detain you to investigate what's going
on. Okay, and I just told you what's going on. Well, officer, at this point, I'd like to speak to a supervisor, so I would ask that you call a sergeant out here.
Absolutely.
How you doing, dude?
Hi, how you doing, sir?
Good. What's going on today?
Just gathering content for a little story.
For what?
Just gathering content, like B-roll, for a little story I'm doing.
Oh, what's the story on?
It's just for a blog I write.
Why not?
I'd rather not say it this time, because it's not published yet, so, just getting some B-roll.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, but you understand why we came out here?
I understand.
Okay. Do you think it's a little weird that you're out here filming Juvenile Hall?
Okay. Well, I've been on the public sidewalk the whole time.
No,
I haven't gone on any restricted areas.
Wrong with that.
Okay.
But we just want to make sure that you're not coming out here trying to snoop around and do something. You want to talk to the sergeant, I take it?
Yeah, because like the other officer, she asked for my ID. I respectfully declined because, I know what my rights are. Unless there's reasonable suspicion that a crime has actually been committed, I'm not required to identify myself. So the other officer here is suggesting that she has the right to ID me. I'm saying no. So at this point, I think it would be best to have a supervisor come out and we can clarify all this.
That's fine.
Okay. So just to clarify, I am being legally detained. I'm not free to leave.
As far as I know, you haven't done anything criminal. We just asked who you were.
Okay. Well, the other officer here said that I was being detained. So.
I think it's suspicious that you're out here filming a Juvenile Hall.
Okay.
Yeah, I was detaining you to find out who you are.
Oh, so I am being detained.
I am detained.
I'm not free to leave then. Okay. All right.
Not accusing you of any crime or anything. Just trying to figure out why you're out here.
Okay. And like I said, I understand that. You got to call for service. You have to come out and investigate. I explained to you what I was doing. But, and you've even admitted that I'm not doing anything wrong. There's no crime being committed. Then I really don't understand why I'm being detained then.
Do you want to speak to our sergeant?
If I'm being detained, yes.
Sergeant Lara, Santa Maria Police Department. The time is 16:13 hours. Are you getting that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I want a stamp too. How can we help you?
Nothing. I just, your officers made contact with me. I explained to them I'm
Okay.
gathering content for a little story I'm doing.
Alrighty.
And one of your officers, she wanted to see my ID. I told her I'd prefer not to.
Actually, we do have the right to ask you for your ID because they call us here. It is a juvenile hall facility here, so we do have your authority. Okay, so if you're doing a story, yes, we do have that right, sir.
Okay, and I explained to your officer that unless I understand California law, I've been through this before.
Okay.
Unless you have reasonable suspicion that I've actually committed a crime.
Hear me out, okay?
Okay.
Listen to it.
So we have people that do reconnaissance on police, on our juvenile hall facilities, jail facilities, people that gather information, take video surveillance, try to identify us, identify our vehicles, and do all that kind of stuff for malicious purposes, okay? And I'm not saying that's what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing out here. You're saying that you're doing this for a blog or whatever. So we're detaining you to figure out whether or not you're doing this for malicious purposes or completely innocent purposes. And if it's for completely innocent purposes, that's totally fine. But we do have the right to identify you, okay? And if we ID you and everything's good to go, then you're fine.
And I have a right to decline because I know the law. I know my right. I'm not trying to be confrontational or anything. But unless you have reasonable suspicion that I've actually committed a crime, I'm not required
Yes, sir. Listen to the officer.
to identify myself.
So the way a detention works, right? We don't have probable cause at this point. The reason we detain people is to investigate something to see whether or not a crime has been committed. So when we detain somebody, at that point, we do not know whether or not a crime has been committed or not yet. Okay? It's during the detention we do our investigation to identify that person and find out why they're there doing what they're doing. And if no crime has been committed, there's no probable cause, and that person is free to go. But during a detention, that's when we do our investigation. At that point, the person is required to identify themselves by law. No crime has been committed that I can tell at this point. You're right. That's correct.
Okay.
But we still have the right to detain you and to identify you.
Okay, but what probable cause is there to suspect that I have committed a crime? I'm filming from a public
Sir,
sidewalk.
probable cause would be in handcuffs already.
Right.
That's what she's trying to explain to you.
Okay.
But we do have detention just to investigate. And we didn't come out here on our own. They contacted us.
Yeah, you got to call for service. I understand that.
And if you know the law and everything, you know that part too. Okay? And bottom line is, the officer's right, and we do have a job to do. Taxpayers pay us to do a job, and this is part of the job.
Okay.
Okay? So all she's asking for identification. No, we're talking. She's not asking for too much.
Okay.
Okay?
And I'm respectfully declining.
Okay. Well, we do need an ID.
Okay, well, I'm not going to provide identification. Like I said, I've been through this before. You know, I've been through similar situations.
This way, start our camera too, so that way, I mean, everything's recorded.
Okay.
So. All right. This is what's gonna happen.
Okay, sir.
Okay. We're gonna stand around so you take care of your business. Okay. And then whatever you need for your blog, do the filming here from here, and obviously that's private property over there.
Okay.
And then then leave when you're ready. Okay. But we're gonna stand around here to make sure that the facility is safe.
Okay, that's perfectly fine.
Kids in here, and that's our main concern here. Kids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we don't know what you're doing here, and we don't feel comfortable just leaving you here. So we are gonna stick around, and then when you're ready to when you're done, then you can leave.
Actually, I'm already ready.
Well, then we can get going then. Okay.
Okay.
And everything will be documented. We're writing a report, and everything, all the pictures and everything. So we have our own little information too.
Okay.
All right. So whenever you're ready, you can get out of here or whatever you're gonna do.
So I'm no longer being detained. I'm free to go.
You're free to go.
Okay.
And there you have it, an officer insisting he can demand ID only to get completely educated on the law. This is why knowing your rights is critical. The man never lost his cool, stood firm, and in the end, the cops had nothing and were forced to let him go. Classic walk of shame. If you enjoyed watching the cops get owned and schooled on constitutional rights, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more eye-opening encounters. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and always film the police.
Some officers rely on authority. Others rely on people not knowing the law. And the second they meet somebody who actually does, everything changes. It started outside a shopping center. Normal afternoon. Families walking around. Cars moving through the parking lot. And near the edge of the sidewalk, a guy standing quietly with a camera. Nothing dramatic. No yelling. No confrontation. Just filming. But apparently, that was enough to ruin somebody's day. A female officer walked over already looking irritated before she even spoke. You could tell immediately. This wasn't curiosity. This was control. What are you doing? The cameraman kept recording calmly. Just filming. Simple answer. No attitude. But she clearly didn't like it. You can't be standing here recording people. The guy slowly looked around. Actually, I can. And right there, the interaction shifted. Because tyrants expect nervous compliance, not calm correction. The officer folds her arms instantly. This is private property. The cameraman points toward the sidewalk beneath him. So where are pedestrians supposed to walk? That question hit immediately, because suddenly she realized the conversation wasn't going to be easy. She keeps insisting the area belongs to the businesses nearby. The auditor starts calmly asking about easements, sidewalks, and public access. Questions. Simple legal questions. And every single one made the officer look less confident. Instead of answering directly, she gets defensive. Why are you putting your camera in people's faces? The guy shakes his head. I'm recording in public. That's weird. Boom. There it was. Not illegal. Not dangerous. Weird. And honestly, that usually tells you everything. Because once officers start policing weird behavior instead of actual crimes, they're already losing the argument. The cameraman stays calm. If I'm not breaking the law, then your feelings about it don't matter. That line completely changed energy. You could see it on her face. She wasn't expecting somebody this informed. Now another officer steps in trying to back her up. But somehow, it only makes things worse. They start arguing over whether the sidewalk is public or private, and neither one sounds fully certain. The auditor catches it immediately. So you're threatening trespassing without even knowing where the property line is? Absolute silence. Awkward silence. Because he was right. Nobody there could clearly explain where the easement started, where private property ended, or what exact law he violated. But the officer keeps pushing anyway. If they tell you to leave, you have to leave. The cameraman nods slowly. If I'm actually on private property. That word, if, hit hard, because suddenly the whole stop became shaky. The officer's tone gets sharper. You're being difficult. The guy laughs softly. No, I'm asking questions you can't answer. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. And honestly, that's when the interaction completely flipped. Because now the officer isn't leading anymore. She's reacting. The cameraman starts calmly explaining sidewalks, public access, utility easements, while the officers keep stumbling through vague answers. One of them even says he could walk in the street instead. The auditor pauses like he genuinely can't believe what he's hearing. So your solution is pedestrians walking in traffic? That line crushed whatever authority they had left. Nearby people are watching now, and the officer knows it. You can see the frustration building. Because cameras don't just record citizens. They record police too. And suddenly, her confidence isn't hitting the same anymore. She finally threatens trespassing, then identification, then arrest. But every threat sounds weaker than the last because none of it has solid legal grounding. The cameraman asks calmly, "And what crime am I suspected of?" No answer. Again, that silence told the whole story. Eventually a supervisor arrives. Older guy, calmer energy. He listens for about 30 seconds before realizing the entire situation is messy. The auditor calmly explains everything. No yelling, no insults, just facts. They're trying to trespass me from a public easement without identifying an actual violation. The supervisor looks around slowly, then toward the officers. And right there, you could see it, that realization. This stop was never solid to begin with. The female officer goes quiet almost immediately, because once the supervisor enters, ego stops mattering. Now it's accountability. After a few more minutes, the supervisor finally waves it off. We got bigger issues to deal with. Translation? This encounter is dead. No arrest, no citation, no trespass, nothing. Just officers slowly backing away from somebody who understood the law better than they expected. And honestly, that's what makes encounters like this powerful. Not disrespect, not drama, knowledge. Because knowledge completely changes interactions. It changes posture. It changes fear. It changes outcomes. The cameraman never needed aggression. He never needed threats. All he needed was understanding, because authority sounds powerful until somebody calmly asks, under what law? And once that question gets asked, bad policing starts falling apart very fast.